This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Welcome back, true crime junkies and truth seekers. We are back for another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I'd like to welcome Nolan to the show today.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Are we celebrating another team that's playing today? I see you're in a jersey.
Oh, yeah, it's the draft, NFL draft. It started yesterday. It goes through Saturday.
Ah.
Second are today.
What's your team?
The Rams.
Okay.
I don't like their first pick, though. They took a quarterback when they didn't really need their existing quarterback's the MVP. But it's for the future. I can understand.
I was just going to say, wouldn't you want the second best, of course, in case the first gets hurt?
Right. And the thing is, their backup, Garoppolo, retired. And then their third guy is a head case. So they need a backup. So.
And this is your team.
Yeah.
Head cases.
Yeah.
Well, it has definitely been an interesting week with our weather. I mean, honestly speaking, I didn't anticipate hail and thunderstorms and all the things, but California said, hold my beer.
Yeah. It rained and hailed like hell here. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I couldn't go outside and get hurt.
I've had enough with water, that's for sure. Good morning, Lindsay.
Sounds like bad weather where she is.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. How are y'all?
We're doing well, thank you. How about yourself?
We're finally dry.
Yeah, well, y'all don't get rain often, huh?
Oh, we do?
I mean,
what?
Yeah.
We get all the seasons. We're in California.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying, I feel like it's always dry over there.
You know what? When we had a weather pattern that brought in El Nino, I think a couple decades ago, we stopped getting our rain in the cycle that we were supposed to get it in. So I hear a lot these days from people who aren't used to it, or maybe they're like new generations and, oh, it shouldn't be raining in April. It doesn't rain in April. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, I grew up with April showers bring May flowers. That's what spring was about.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. I don't have to water for another week.
Exactly. Exactly. All right,
we haven't gotten any rain in a few weeks, so.
Wow.
Oh, we need that rain.
Are you in Texas or where are you, Lindsay?
Alabama.
Bama. Okay.
Yep.
Bama. Isn't that like that spread that doesn't get all the water, like that area in between, and that's why people are on the East Coast and the West Coast because of the lush.
Well, I think it's like we're in the middle, so it's like, or kind of in the middle. Like I feel like we get a lot of like too much rain, and then we can go for a long while without it. You know what I'm saying?
Huh. So like the desert.
We were just talking about the draft, the NFL draft, and the Rams' first pick was the quarterback from Alabama.
Really?
Ty Simpson. Yeah.
Wow. I like Simpson, but he made me mad a lot of times. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, no, he had a great first half of the year. Second half wasn't so great.
I know, yeah. I don't know what happened.
But he's good. I mean, I think the Rams took him too early, though. But
that
anyway,
is a little early for him, yeah.
Yeah, he was projected late first round, and he went 13th overall, which is middle of the first round. But anyway, let's get on with the show.
Let's get on with the show. You know, I've been watching some interesting things, and I was telling Juan backstage about a couple things that I watched this week. One of them was A Million Ways to Die in the West with Charlize Theron. She's one of my favorite.
Oh, I love her.
I love that show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the end of it, they're joking after he kills Liam Neeson, and she says, "It's okay, I'm half Jewish." And he's like,
Oh my
"What,
God.
really?" And she's like, "No, not really." And they bust up laughing, and she looks at him and she goes, "And you're not really Arabic, are you?" And he's like, "No, not really." I was just like, what do they got going on right now in the show? And then I watched the WWE or the special on Hulk Hogan, which is totally out of my realm because I never liked wrestling ever, like at least not the fake stuff, right?
Our family's a big WWE family, so.
So as they're saying that he's coming to light as the American hero and forming the brand Hulk Hogan, they're flashing what's going on in politics during this time and the patriotism that's happening around the world because they're talking. The news stories are talking about the 40-some hostages that Iran has just before Reagan comes into presidency. And so if they're showing to our generation today who loves and lives, WWE. Looking at Iran as though they're bad people because they've got these 40 hostages, when the reality is Reagan's administration paid them to keep those 40 hostages, not negotiate with the president at the time, making him look bad in the eyes of the public and helping Reagan get elected into office. I was like, what a sham.
And they gave them missiles.
Oh, of course. I mean, the whole
Iran-Contra affair. And we were dealing cocaine, giving missiles to the Iranians, our enemies. The people that are holding
supposedly our enemies.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
making backdoor deals so that Reagan would get elected over Carter and make Carter look bad by not freeing the hostages. In the meantime, fighting the Sandinistas with cocaine money. It's all
and Bush all up in
all that. Yeah. The book Veil by Bob Woodward is the best book on that subject. I highly recommend it. Veil.
And then you have Bush, who is part of the Iran-Contra affairs, who pardons the last person who's indicted that could actually get him indicted. Yeah. Cover up.
Yeah. Well, under Gerald Ford, before Carter, Bush was the head of the CIA. Then under Reagan, he was vice president.
Exactly.
For 8 years.
Craziness. So back to Bush, because that's where we left off last week. But of course, we're on Papa Bush right now. We left off here. We've got a couple more slides left of this story by The Guardian that I was reading off last week. It says Loftus and said Prescott Bush must have been aware of what was happening in Germany at the time. Of course they did. My take on him was that he was a not terribly successful in-law who did what Herbert Walker told him to. Walker and Harriman were the two evil geniuses. They didn't care about the Nazis any more than they cared about their investments with the Bolsheviks. What is also at issue is how much money Bush made from his involvement. His supporters suggest that he had one token share. Loftus disputes this, citing sources in the banking and intelligence communities and suggesting that the Bush family, through George Herbert Walker and Prescott, got $1.5 million out of the involvement. There is, however, no paper trail to this sum. The third person going into print on the subject is John Buchanan, 54, a Miami-based magazine journalist who started examining the files while working on a screenplay. Last year, Buchanan published his findings in the venerable but small circulation New Hampshire Gazette under the headline, Documents in National Archives Prove George Bush's grandfather traded with the Nazis even after Pearl Harbor. He expands on it, He expands on this in his book to be published next month, Fixing America, Breaking the Stranglehold of Corporate Rule, Big Media, and the Religious Right. Is this not just reliving things? I mean, literally at this point?
He's got it nailed, though.
Yeah.
He does.
In the article, Buchanan, who has worked mainly in the trade and music press with a spell as a muckraking reporter in Miami, claimed that the essential facts have appeared on the internet and relatively obscure books, but were dismissed by the media and Bush family as undocumented diatribes. Buchanan suffers from hypermania, a form of manic depression, and when he found himself rebuffed in his initial efforts to interest the media, he responded with a series of threats against the journalists and media outlets that had spurned him. The threats, contained in emails, suggested that he would expose the journalists as traitors to the truth. I don't know if he actually ever did it, but that probably is the bottom line. Unsurprisingly, he soon had difficulty getting his calls returned. Most seriously, he faced aggravated stalking charges in Miami in connection with a man with whom he had fallen out over the best way to publicize his findings. The charges were dropped last month. Biography. Buchanan said he regretted his behavior, had damaged his credibility, but his main aim was to secure publicity for the story. Both Loftus and Schweitzer say Buchanan has come up with previously undisclosed documentation. The Bush family have largely responded with no comment to any reference to Prescott Bush. Brown Brothers Harriman also declined to comment. The Bush family recently approved a flattering biography of Prescott Bush entitled Duty, Honor, Country by Mickey Herskowitz. That doesn't shock me. The publishers, Rutledge Hill Press, promised the book would deal honestly with Prescott Bush's alleged business relationships with Nazi industrialists and other accusations. In fact, the allegations are dealt with in less than 2 pages. The book refers to the Herald Tribune story by saying that a person of less established ethics would have panicked. Bush and his partners at Brown Brothers Harriman informed the government regulators that the account, opened in the late 1930s, was an unpaid courtesy for a client. Prescott Bush acted... Yeah. Quickly and openly on behalf of the firm, served well by a reputation that had never been compromised. It has. People just forget that it was compromised.
Yeah.
He made available all... Yeah. He made available all records and all documents. Viewed 6 decades later in the era of serial corporate scandals and shattered careers. Just what they're doing with Epstein, right? In the middle of political strife, they're distracting us, just as you said, Nolan, with Epstein stuff, and they don't know what's worse, you know, to dissuade us with what's going on in Iran by giving us false stories, or then coming back after they've been beaten and look really, really sad in America's eyes and pump out more Epstein stuff.
It's all bad.
It's all bad. Viewed 6 days later in the era of serial corporate scandals and shattered careers, he received what can be viewed as the ultimate clean bill. So disgusting.
Right, yeah. Whitewashed.
The Prescott Bush story has been condemned by both conservatives and some liberals as having nothing to do with the current president. That has no bearing. Yeah. Well, but they have to shed good light on the very people they want to continue to maintain rule and office over us. It has also been suggested that Prescott Bush had little to do with Averell Harriman and that the two men opposed each other politically. We find out doesn't matter, right? We got Trump as a Republican president who was a Democrat.
Economically, yeah.
What's that?
They're both capitalists, and both greedy capitalists.
Right.
So they had a lot in common.
A whole lot in common. And it doesn't matter what side you're on, as we have found out, because Trump, being a Republican president, was originally a Democrat. Trump, can I finish my statement? Trump, being a Republican president, was a Democrat who supported the Clintons. So why does it matter if they opposed each other politically? The overall goal to rule and control and to usurp any amount of available living that we can make for ourselves is an agenda of all of them. Let's see. However, documents from the Harriman papers include
Make money.
For sure. Make money. No, usurp ours. There's a difference. However, documents from the Harriman papers.
Deal with Nazis if you have to. Whatever it takes. Sorry.
However, documents from the Harriman papers include a flattering wartime profile of Harriman in the New York Journal American. And next to it in the files is a letter to the financial editor of that paper from Prescott Bush, congratulating the paper for running the profile. He added that Harriman's performance and his whole attitude has been a source of inspiration and pride to his partners and his friends. So this is what Bush says about Harriman, who he supposedly opposes. Silence becomes us. Oh, you're gonna love this. Where's Lindsay? Lindsay, you better be here. The Anti-Defamation. Okay, you're gonna love this. The Anti-Defamation League in the U.S. is supportive of Prescott Bush. What?
Yeah.
What?
Of course they are.
And the Bush family. In a statement
Of course.
last year, they said that rumors about the alleged Nazi ties of the late Prescott Bush have circulated widely through the internet in recent years. These charges are untenable and politically motivated. Prescott Bush was neither a Nazi nor a Nazi sympathizer. Okay.
We just had
However,
business dealings with them.
yeah. They just made money off of them.
Yeah.
And Auschwitz was our camp, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. However, one of the country's oldest Jewish publications, the Jewish Advocate, has aired the controversy in detail. More than 60 years after Prescott Bush came briefly under scrutiny at the time of a faraway war, his grandson is facing a different kind of scrutiny, but one underpinned by the same perception that for some people, war can be a profitable business.
For some people.
Yeah, definitely for some. So I thought, I'm going to take a look at some of this stuff and see where it lies. I just wanted to kind of run a search and, get some information based on our history that I don't know. And you're usually pretty good for that, Nolan, and Lindsay as well. You guys definitely have me on that one. So I ran some things just to kind of see where it was at. One of those things I've been watching is the World War I and World War II documentaries to kind of see what our involvement was, where we were at, and what was going on at the time. I was informed that at one point Rothschilds had done the Balfour Declaration. And so I wanted to research a little bit of that. And lo and behold, the Balfour Declaration occurred in 1917, right there on the cusp of World War I, sending all of the Jewish immigrants. And I say immigrants because their parents had at one point, I'm assuming, migrated. If they were on these lands 3 years ago and decided to move where populations were and cities were forming and things were happening, then these people are now citizens of Germany. So when the Rothschilds gave them a free pass and shipped them all off back to Palestine because it's their wishes to be on their motherland, I thought, why would Rothschild do this, and who's Rothschild? So I looked up Rothschild, and Rothschild family is a wealthy Ashkenazi Jewish noble banking family originally from Frankfurt, Germany. So they're basically paid by one of their own to go to another place. Does that make, I don't know.
That's wild.
It doesn't.
And that's in 1917. That's during World War I.
Exactly. So it no longer sounds like they were kicked out of Eastern Europe, rather than they were shuttled carefully by a very wealthy family called the Rothschild. It says the family's documented history. What's that?
That's the seeds of the state of Israel.
100%. Because they were taking over people's lands. They called it absent landowners. They would give their properties of absent landowners to the Jewish people. Then slowly but surely, they began kicking out all the people of Palestine and the Arabs, and usurping even more, and then committing genocide and fighting.
Yep.
And I just don't understand. And the one thing that I'm following on the World War I and World War II stuff is that it's some greedy ruler who wants more. Yep. I want this land. I want that land. I want to control this. I want to control that. And out of the World War I stuff that I've come to the conclusion of so far is the Nuremberg trials. So now I have an understanding.
That was World War II, Nuremberg.
Sorry. Yes, that is. And like I said, I'm probably cross-connecting some of my information between 1 and 2. But the Nuremberg trial says that you're not allowed to attack your neighbors. So what the F is Israel doing right now?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's again, also the Geneva Convention, too. Yeah.
Yes. So you're violating the very laws on the books. Yeah. How can we expect our politicians here, like that 80-year-old man's paperwork that I was reading when he said it's a 1978 law for transparency. We shouldn't have to keep discussing it. We shouldn't have to keep telling people about it. It exists. They're supposed to follow it. So how can we expect our politicians to follow the law when we've got countries doing just the opposite? All right. So Jewish immigration.
Lebanon has not attacked Israel. Israel is attacking Lebanon under the guise of they're going after Hezbollah.
Yeah,
but
it's always a guise.
Oh yeah, there's always a guise.
And the Lebanese citizens and non-military people are suffering due to acts of Israel that were not brought about by their own government. It's a terrible situation in Lebanon.
Well, and part of the Nuremberg is that you're not allowed to attack due to religion.
Yeah.
It's one of the caveats. Let these people enjoy their religion however they want to enjoy their religion. My gosh. So a little bit more on that was Jewish immigration from Eastern Europe, the historical context, the movement of Jews out of Eastern Europe, particularly during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, was primarily driven by persecution and the search for better opportunities. This immigration was significantly influenced by various factors. Violent riots against Jews, particularly in the 1880s, prompted many to flee. Economic hardship. Many Jews sought better economic prospects, especially in the United States. Keyword, you guys, especially in the United States. Political instability. The rise of anti-Semitism and oppressive regimes made life increasingly difficult for Jewish communities. Now, in the World War I rhetoric, we saw that they were supposedly persecuting and anti-Semitic the Jews for being money-snatching, grabbing individuals who wanted to see the small businessmen fail because they want to control. And that primarily the Democratic political party in that time frame were also Jewish people, rich bankers and people who had money. So this anti-Semitism probably came from the people who were being kept at such a low poverty level that they could barely survive. Heavily taxed, overruled, micromanaged, So yeah, this was the perception. And now we're here, 100 and some years later, and some of the same things can still be said with this whole Epstein saga. The individuals who, elicited or pushed him into our lives to collect nefarious information on our political and government and CEOs and industries so that they could then turn around and blackmail us right back into these situations, which is kind of disgusting to me.
And I want to and it goes all the way back to the Bible times. It literally goes all the way back to those times where the Jewish people were the people that came after you for to pay your taxes.
Oh, see, now that's not something they portray just what they want us to hear. That's what I see.
It's in the Bible, literally. We just went over it in a church a couple of Sundays ago.
And that's so sickening that we have the history before us. But again, I am the first perpetrator of not fully understanding history. In fact, every time I talk about the Iraqi war, I think I misstate Saddam Hussein instead of, what's the other guy's name? Now I've lost his name. Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
So I've even been saying the wrong person, I think, in regards to the wrong war. So I'm starting to straighten this mess out.
I had to do the same thing. I had to go back and literally relearn history, on my own time and, my own way and through my own research, because that's the only way you will fully understand it, because they're not going to teach you the correct way at all.
Not only are they not going to create or treat you the right information or give you the right teach I guess both is the same really in my mind now, but by the time you're out of school and you're no longer taking history lessons, which was 20-30 years of history previous to you even being alive, probably by the time you're an adult, you've got 20 years of more politics and history that's occurred under your belt that you weren't even aware of because you were just a kid toddling through life, right? Yep. Don't put on the politics on my TV. I don't want to see that. I want Thundercats or So
I was always fascinated myself. Like when I was young, the Watergate hearings, Vietnam War, all that was on TV, and I was fascinated personally.
But you had a journalistic mind. You had a journalistic mind.
Whenever 9/11 happened, I was like, I couldn't wait to get home because we got checked out of school. And I couldn't wait to get home just so I could watch it on TV to see what was going on. And I was in 3rd grade.
I saw the second plane hit live because after the first hit, it was already on the news. They're all filming it, and live, I saw the second plane hit.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing about Nuremberg is you can't attack unprovoked. So what did we have happen with 9/11 and the anthrax letters? We perpetrated, as far as I'm concerned, another attack on ourselves, just like we did with Cuba, just like I think we recently did with Iran by blowing up that school. You know, we provoked them to attack us so that we could go to war. Yep. And it likely was our missiles, but it certainly, they've already told us 100 times that we can't even get close enough to launch a missile because Iran has that area so well covered that they could pick us off at sea. They could pick us off in the air. So how is it that America fired this missile at this school that caused this entire thing to blow up as it has?
Yeah, provocation is in our history. The Tet Offensive in the Vietnam War. Remember the Maine and the Spanish-American War. All of them. And the Mexican-American War. There's a lot of provocative acts. That's why there's a term known as provocateur. That's right. It's like a spy set in to cause problems for a movement or for a group of people.
Yep. Absolutely. So a little bit more, and we're going to move right on into Tom Voigt here, but it says the establishment of Israel and the war that followed and preceded it led to a major demographic change in the form of displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, sparking a decades-long conflict between Israel and the Palestinian people. In the 1967 war, Israel expanded its borders to include, among others, the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, territories that in 1948 absorbed a large part of the displaced Palestinian population. The Palestinians seek to establish their own independent state in at least one part of historic Palestine. Israel cites defense of its own borders and Palestinian internal political violence as reasons why a Palestinian state is not feasible. A majority of United Nations member states recognize Palestine as an independent state, but this does not currently reflect the situation on the ground. Israel maintains effective control over the West Bank, while the Gaza Strip, despite not being under direct Israel control since 2005, has been under a blockade by Israel and Egypt.
Let me tell you something real quick.
Yep.
So Palestine, it was actually a state before Israel was, and it's in the Bible.
Well, yes, that's where they shipped. That's where the Rothschilds shipped. Here, let me give all my good, rich, comrades, I suppose, a country, and we'll just usurp it from people of lesser means and kick them out, take it over, commit genocide, blow people up. Like, the whole thing has been a hot mess for I don't even know how long. Ooh, I lost her. Nope, she's still there. It says numerous peace negotiations have taken place over the years, but a long-term settlement has not been reached. The conflict has been marked by violence, including Palestinian political violence and Israeli military operations. The United States and other countries have played a role in attempting to broker peace, although Israel views the United States as its strategic ally rather than a neutral third party. I don't understand why that's even possible.
Because they're literally the size of New Jersey. Like, what? How are they our greatest ally? I don't get it.
No, we are their strategic ally. Not that they're our greatest. We are their greatest, I would think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it says numerous obstacles remain, including the issue of Israeli settlements in the West Bank, the status of Jerusalem, and the ultimate fate of Palestinian refugees. Very sad. Am I losing everybody?
No, I don't know why it doesn't show my picture whenever I change it.
I see you to the right in the chats, but yeah, I don't see you on the screen, which is interesting.
I think it's a setting or something, because on mine, when I do my streaming, I can do this and it will still show my picture.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, I hear you and I can see you to the right, so I know you're still there, but it does look like we lost Nolan. So we talked about the Million Ways to Die and the, Jewish versus the Arab type mentality that we see going on. Not only that, but we see glorified mob and mafia, which we know the ADL protected back in, the early the 1940s, 1960s. Blacklist, one of my all-time favorite movies, actually promotes the most notorious wanted criminal in history and shows him to be Jewish.
Yep.
I just can't make this stuff up.
I mean, it doesn't surprise you when you keep going and going and you keep learning and learning. It's like, wow, nothing surprises me now. Like at first in the beginning, you're so shocked, but then it keeps going. Oh, like same repetition of things over and over. It's like a cycle, and you're like, wow, that doesn't surprise me anymore.
It is definitely cyclical, and I now understand why my good girlfriend said that, you know, the darn Izzies, as she calls them, has continuously gotten us into war over the last several decades of her life, and we can now see how that is happening. So while I thought it was Netanyahu stating Saddam Hussein had these nuclear weapons, I'm pretty sure I mixed that up, and it was actually Osama bin Laden. He was saying, I don't know, one of the two. But they make them look like the bad guys when it's us imposing ourselves on them that makes them want to fight us.
Bush invaded Iraq because of the allegation of weapons of mass destruction, but they never found anything once you know, they obliterated a lot of what they call the Holy Land, you know, the ancient birthplace of civilization, basically.
Well, and that's my point. So Netanyahu's there going, we need to take him down. He has nuclear weapons or weapons of mass destruction, inciting us into a war that wasn't true.
Netanyahu and the Israelis, they're the warmongers. They start the war with Iran. They get us involved, get us deeply involved. Then they go after Lebanon, too. Lebanon didn't do anything to them. The Hezbollah may have done a few things in retaliation for what Israel's been doing to the Palestinians, but the country of Lebanon did not sanction any of it, but they're getting bombed.
Right. Well, and that leads me into another article that I found, but I didn't, not an article, it's a FOIA memorandum that I found in the FBI files, and it actually is dealing with the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, and it notes that George E. W. Bush. It says at 1:45 p.m., Mr. George M.W. Bush, president of the Capita Offshore Drilling Company, Houston,
Zapata,
Texas.
I think, yeah.
Oh, Zapata. Yeah, this is so blurry. Once I blew it up, like some of the stuff is just going into nothing, but you're right. It's Zapata.
That's the Bush Oil Company in Texas.
Yep. Gives telephonically furnished the following information to writer by long distance telephone call from Tyler, Texas. Bush stated that he wanted to be kept confidential. Of course he did, but wanted to furnish hearsay that he recalled hearing in recent weeks, the day and source unknown. He stated that one James Parrott, have you ever heard that name before?
No.
I hadn't either, so that's why I brought this up. One James Parrott.
Say James Parrish?
Parrott. Parrott.
Oh, no, I haven't heard that one either.
I've never heard this name before. That's why I brought this up.
The day Kennedy was assassinated.
I know, and this is George Bush calling in to say one James Parrott had been talking of killing the president when he comes to Houston. Bush stated that Parrott is possibly a student at the University of Houston and is active in political matters in this area. He stated that he felt Mrs. Wanley telephone number and Arlene Smith telephone number of the Harris County Republican Party headquarters would be able to furnish additional information regarding the identity of Parrott. Bush stated that he was proceeding to Dallas, Texas, would remain in the Sheraton Dallas Hotel, and return to his residence on 11/23/63. So he furnishes this information, and I'm not sure. It says 1:45 p.m. What was the time JFK was assassinated?
12:30 Texas time.
So he is now claiming. Well, and I'm not sure. This obviously has got to be George Sr., not Grandpa, right?
No, it's not Prescott. It's George Sr., yes. He was still a relatively young man at that point.
Well, because we saw Bush Jr. at the depository, in pictures of the depository.
The young Bush? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
he was really young at that point. Yeah.
Very young.
20s, yeah.
No, even younger, I think.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Like kid status.
Okay.
So I'm seeing these pictures,
so
which would indicate
were there that day.
Well, and you wouldn't be there without your father, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I
it's
guess
a big national day for. Yeah, it's a big national day for Texas, right? And
presidents there,
governor. Yeah, they would all have to be there.
Yeah.
But
LBJ wasn't there though. He was smart enough to not go. So he didn't get shot.
Right. But this intel is indicating that at 1:43 p.m. he's back at his house on his way to Houston, Texas. Or on his way to Dallas, right?
Okay. I've got to find you that picture, Nanette, and to send to you of George Senior Bush in front of a steps area. I believe it's in Texas, and Harvey Oswald is in the photo.
Oh, in Daily Plaza?
How could he be in the photo if he already left?
I can't remember the location or the date the photo was taken. It was around that time where they looked about the same ages during that time frame. So I'd
love to see it. We need to put it out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, moving on. So that brings us back to obviously the Zodiac stuff. I'm sorry we took such a big segue, but I really wanted people to understand the anthrax attempts and the fact that it is known. And I said this, our political science book says there's only two reasons that the president can override a veto from Congress to go to war. And that's an act of biowarfarism or an international act of terrorism, which we saw both happen in 2001. And so moving that along, we also see the involvement with other wars throughout the Bush history. We've literally basically, I think, been having the mob, the syndicate, whatever you call it, run our politics for a very long time. So December 14th, 2001, we've got 21-year-old Roger Dale Swinner at the 16,000 block of I-45, Shepherd Hill Road, Willis, Texas. You guys have to remember that at this very point in time, Jack is teetering around. Remember, he's in Texas because his wife has died. He's come to Texas. He's gone to Washington. He's come back to Texas. Like, he's in and out, and we don't really know where he is at this very moment, but we do have this killing. A driver, Roger Dale Swinner, was driving his red 1992 Ford semi-tractor and pulling one half of a double-wide mobile home, and a second driver followed with the other half. Swinner swerved off the road onto a grass median. The other truck driver found him slumped over in his seat, and it was discovered that he had been shot by an unknown passing car with a .22 caliber weapon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jack's favorite weapon.
Let's create some more chaos somewhere. So keeping law enforcement busy, maybe? I don't know. This is what Dennis had to say in his book about this same time frame. Christmas Day 2001, and I have not eaten a bite for 2 weeks. I had not heard from Joy, as I figured she would have called since it was Christmas. After watching the kids open their presents, I decided to go see Joy one last time before I headed back to California. I arrived in Port Haddock around 9 a.m. and as I was driving through town, I saw Joy and her aunt. They were going out to have breakfast and asked me to join them. After breakfast, Joy and I went for a drive, and it seemed like old times again. Joy decided to return to California with me and open our new cell phone store. I felt like I was finally alive again. I was so happy to have Joy back in my life once again. When we got back to California, Joy and I met with my Uncle Tony to discuss the opening of the new store. Tony told Joy and I to find a location that we could open our store at. He also loaned us the money to move into an apartment and gave us our own cell phone. Within a week, we had moved into our own place and had signed a lease for our new store. It had been so long since I felt like this. So we know Jack's not around at this point because Dennis makes no mention of what's going on. He's working with his uncle to get things set up in the cell phone stores and all the things that Jack had always been a part of as well. I'm sure Dennis learned a lot of that from him.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. And it seems, because I want to say it was 79 when Jack and Nora had moved back to the Auburn area and opened up their own cell phone business. So yeah, I feel like it was something that was in the making and following the footsteps of.
Yeah.
January 12th of 2002, an unidentified human skeletal remains in Houston, Texas. Skull and books on the occult. A skull and books on the occult found in an iron cauldron, which a citizen purchased at a flea market, and it was determined that the items originated from a storage shed purchased due to non-payment by owner in Houston, Texas, and was sold at a flea market at the 20,000 block of Highway 105 East, Cleveland, Texas. DNA could not be obtained, but this is the second time I've read this. And so here we have another skull, which means we've got a missing body somewhere. And you know, one of the things that I was listening to in the mob documentaries in the last couple of weeks is that they used to cut off the hands of their victims.
Yeah.
And that was usually because they had meddled in something they shouldn't have meddled in, or gotten themselves involved, or you know, all these different things. But we have several grave sites that had extra sets of hands in with other remains. So again, pointing back to mob mafia. And one of the more interesting things is that one of the mafia members who Colombo,
oh yeah. I know who you're talking about. I can't think of his first name.
He's so powerful that when the movie The Godfather's made, he's able to get Hollywood to remove any instances of the word mafia being used.
Wow.
Yeah.
No Cosa Nostra, no mafia. And how are you that powerful? But the whole time he's going on an anti-Semitic propaganda where he's marching through streets and saying they're treating us badly. We're just innocent peoples, innocent Jews. We're not doing anything wrong. Meanwhile, he's the father of the family of the mob.
Yeah.
I'm just like, you know this, and you let him set up marches and protests. Like, no, you should have taken him down.
Yeah.
I think that we've not been protected as Americans for a very long time, and it's time for us to stand up and say it's time for us to be protected. Ooh.
Yeah. It's been I got chills. It's been a long time and people don't even know it.
Yes. So going further, Jack was notorious for having storage sheds. We know this. And Dennis did too. Maintaining them, however, caused both of them to losses due to non-payment. And I've watched Dennis lose a few. I know that Jack has probably lost several. And who knows whose hands some of this evidence might have ended up in. There was a letter that I haven't been able to validate called friction tape. And the letter states that he has his belongings marked with tape all over California in closets. I suppose that these might mean storage sheds. I mean, how many closets can you be in possession of unless you own the properties?
Right.
Yeah.
So February 1st of 2002, Joy and I opened our new cell phone store, and after just a few days, we were making money. Our first month was very profitable, and Joy and I really enjoyed what we were doing. The following month was even better, and things were going good finally. However, this was about to suddenly change. So now I think we get to see Jack walking back into their lives. April 2002, I get a phone call from my younger brother, Charles. He said he was going to come out and visit. He would be driving from Lockhart, Texas. So they are in Texas, guys. I'm not wrong. That shooting, yes, with the 22 now puts them back in Texas. I was surprised Charles wanted to see me because the last time we talked, he was very angry with me for accusing his dad of being Zodiac. However, it was good to hear from him and was looking forward to seeing my little bro. I was relieved to see that Charles wasn't mad at me anymore, or so I thought. A week later, Charles and his girlfriend, Crystal. Now, Crystal is the one that lives one zip code over. Her father lives one zip code over from Tim Miller, where the letter was mailed from in Tim Miller's case.
Wow.
I was relieved to see that Charles wasn't mad at me anymore, or so I thought. A week later, Charles and his girlfriend Crystal arrive at our apartment in Sacramento, California. This was the first time I met Crystal. She was very quiet. The following day, we all went to our store, and Charles was impressed with the cellular business so much that he wanted to move out here and start his own business as well. I told Charles we can talk to Tony and see if he would be interested in setting up another store and have Charles run it. So it sounds, I mean, again, if not franchising, it's mob-like, right? Let me set up a bunch of businesses I'm going to make a bunch of money off of. But I don't have to do the work.
That's what
Meanwhile, we also show that Jack is definitely using the Shady Oak address, which is the mobile home on the property that Flova, his mother, had owned before passing in 1997. So it tells me that this property, as late as 2002, is still in the family's name. And this is an insufficient funds notice for bouncing checks. So that was sent to Jack on March 12th of 2002. and the Dale, Texas, which is a basically a 3-hour drive time to most of the murders that are occurring at this particular point in time. Bank statement going to Jack and Charles in Dale, Texas to Flova's home. Okay. On April 28th of 2002, 81-year-old Willie Ortega Deanda on the 11,000 block of Crockett Martin Road in Conroe, Texas. Deanda went to investigate suspects that entered home and was shot 3 times with a .22 caliber weapon while standing in his bedroom doorway. He died before the first responders could arrive. Spouse claims she never seen the suspects. I don't know how. I don't know how you didn't see them.
Maybe she was hiding.
Right? Yeah, I guess that
gunshots. I'm not going to go out and confront anyone. I'm going to lay low.
Right. Yeah. Well, and if she had a good husband who told her stay in the room or stay in the closet or, stay hidden basically because I need to go figure out what's going on, then yeah, there's a possibility that she never saw them. Yeah. I don't know if I should climb into these next 2 pages. This is more interactions with Dennis and Jack. Since we just have a couple minutes left, I would like to at least take some time to see what you guys thought about what we've covered so far.
Well, I think that you did a great full circle of, right back around to where, we are right now with Jack and his whereabouts, because people need to know that backstory and that back history of what is happening in those current times to be able to really understand fully 100%, what we have here and what what you're presenting. So I think that's a great job I think we've came pretty far with that, and I'm thankful for that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to know. And this is why any of these murders, unsolved murders, are in this presentation to begin with, is due to Jack's proximity. I mean, if Jack's not in that state, why would I be talking about those? I mean, not that I don't think he has the ability to travel at will, because if he is working for the likes of the individuals, it may be that he had access to planes and to, travel and things that would be out of the ordinary for somebody who didn't appear to even have a job or money for that matter.
And he was addicted to killing.
I think, yeah. Well, and I think at this point in 2001, we've got him under the thumb of the FBI because Dennis has turned him in. So let's, create some more chaos that they're following rather than looking at me. Dennis never, I don't think once ever suspected that Jack could have been possibly the author of the anthrax letters. But when I told him about it, he said it made sense because he had recently been turned into the FBI.
Yeah.
So what a great way. We were actually told when they were doing the handwriting examination, everybody on air, I have air quotes up. When the FBI claimed they were doing the examination on Jack's handwriting, we were told that it was held up almost 10 months because Quantico was dealing with terrorist handwriting.
What?
Yeah, this is 2009, though, well past the anthrax letters, so we know it wasn't the anthrax letters, but what's the quinky-dinky here that we can't get Jack looked at in a timely manner because they're looking at terrorist handwriting?
Whatever.
Yeah, that was kind of a huge joke all in itself. I mean, literally, the report that they put out does not look like anything that a document examiner would write. It wasn't on the FOIA letterhead. It wasn't on any type of memorandum that I've seen throughout all the handwriting examinations in the Zodiac case. It did not appear or look professional whatsoever, as if somebody in the office had literally typed it up. It was a page and one paragraph on a second page, and it said he may have and he may not have.
Yeah.
Inconclusive. Yeah.
And the biggest problem with this is that this is exactly what privatized document examiners see when they go up against an opposing examiner from the government. It's always inconclusive or they don't know. Those are the weakest forms of opinion. Do you even know your job?
They're just deflecting.
Yeah, that's exactly. And they've learned how to take that from governmental deflection on into their own private practice, which is messing with court systems. Yep. Depriving people of their justice and their rights, and some losing and maybe even their livelihood and going to jail on criminal matters they weren't responsible for. Like, the whole thing is just insane. Now, let's get over the inconclusive and let's put somebody behind the desk that actually knows their job and can get it done.
At least has a strong take.
A solid opinion that they'll stand on, not straddle the fence of
So
inconclusive or may have or may not have.
Or at least give us clues as to how you analyze it and what led you to your conclusions.
100%. Show me your work, baby. Show me your work.
Exactly.
All right, you guys, we are at the end of our time now. I want to thank you both again for being here. This was absolutely phenomenal. We're going to pick back up where we left off and hopefully really climb into the Tom Voight stuff next week.
Yes.
Okay.
Peace, America.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Yes. Have a good
Go
one.
Rams.